you got an admission. Provided now that the Trans Act is there is a category of transgender person. The next is hostels, accommodation. This is the biggest problem why a lot of trans people, do they say it as the attrition rate, if I'm not wrong, are the people who left employment, right, from Kochi Metro, which was very celebrated in the media. Oh my God, Kochi Metro hired these many people through Kudumbashree, but they were not able to sustain because of many factors, but the primary factor being housing and accommodation. Because you will have to additionally pay for rent, which obviously if you're openly trans, the rent would be higher. Added to that, any other marginalization, say based on disability, based on caste, based on tribal status, any of it, right, our gender, any of it, or any other issue, right, means that the rent will be far more higher compared to anyone else. First, getting a house on rent is a difficult issue. Getting a house nearby your workplace is like a huge issue. Workplace are your education institution. Beyond that, you figure out, which means you get a house, but the risk of you getting thrown out at the whims of the landlord is high. Because let's be honest, this is also something that I'm borrowing from a friend and a researcher, Vikram Altyasahai. Vikram had put this out. And this is true because I'm also at the verge of trying to find houses on rent. I've tried before in different situations. Is most of the houses people take on rent are without registered agreements. Because registered agreements means you can officially raise the rent every year, right? And you have to deal with registration and a bunch of laws applying to you, right? Most of the housing market is, this is the economic framework in which trans persons operate, right? Whether it be a workplace, whether it be an educational institution. You need, first, getting into that workplace or educational institution is a barrier. A lot of barriers are there, which people just don't think about. And then getting into that institution or space and then sustaining in it, right? For example, basic things like housing. How are people going to figure out their housing? And workspaces and education institutions just don't seem to care. That extra mile of caring is just not there. I'll take my personal example. I don't want to go too much into it, but so for example, a lot of internships that I applied to that I don't want to talk about openly because transphobia is structural. Transphobia is thanks to a lot of caste and tribal based discrimination, right? The way people view trans people, and it is structural. I don't want to make it about individuals, right? I know enough people who are in positions of power with the government, outside the government, in the judiciary, who I can call out and be like, I have very clear evidence, but I don't want to. What I'm trying to say is that I was asked to shave my head and my hair wasn't even this long. It was like, for example, right now, if you look at me, either people will call me male or people will call me ma'am. But the intermediate time when I was quite androgynous or gender non-conforming, etc., when I wasn't quote unquote passing, if I put on a mask, was a very difficult time when people were asking me to cut my hair. Even though people asked me, but employers were asking me. Prospective employers, people who are giving internships, people were telling me that no, people like you should not be hired. People like you should not exist in the legal profession. You are good for only sex work. So, for example, I am not Dr. Kanmani or Dr. my dead name, whatever, is because a certain university was not okay. You need to present your topic right in the interview. They were not okay with me researching on transgender persons, for that matter. Even though I secured an interview, I was in that position, right? But it was not enough. I can recount 100 instances of discrimination. But structurally, people, when say workplaces, I studied in Delhi University for that matter, University of Delhi, or Amity, or IGNOU, any of them do not think structurally, do not put themselves in the position of step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. These are the issues. Think about it from the perspective of the trans person and you will get it. It's very common sense.